Well, it's wintertime and it's getting close to spring, and I'm the world's worst for sitting around at night and trying to think of things I can do to get ready for fishing season. And I've been making some jigs, painted them jigs, made some videos on that, so check those out. And now I've got to make some assist hooks for them. And I've always used the Kevlar, but I lose a bunch of them. I mean, they don't last. Normally, if you don't lose the jig, you got to at least retie 2 or 3 times in an hour or two of fishing, put new assist hooks on. So I'm gonna go to wire. I'm gonna give it a try. I've been doing a lot of reading on it. I haven't tried it yet. And the biggest thing is I've never really crimped. I've always just tied knots on everything all my life. So I'm getting into crimping. So this is a little bit of a new experience, but I definitely want to try this because the last time I went out, they just tore the assist hooks to pieces for whatever reason. I don't know if it was sharks, barracudas, anything it could be, but I mean, it was just assist hook after assist hook gone. So I've been playing around with it a little bit. I'm gonna show you what I'm doing, and maybe you can try some for yourself. All right, so everything you're gonna need, I ordered, pretty much I didn't have any of this. I had to order it all. I've never crimped before too much. And so this is kind of a new experience for me with the crimping, but you've got to have, I decided to go with 275-pound cable, 49 string. I think it's camo and non-coated. And you've got to have the right kind of crimps. And I've never used the catch-all crimps. They seem to be pretty good. 1.3 millimeter for the 275-pound strand. And depending upon which way you want to go, you can do the little squids, or you can do the glow tubing, which I'll link this in below. All this, I got everything off Amazon. So that's pretty much where most of my stuff comes from. You just can't beat the prices. So you're gonna need heat shrink, and you're gonna need pretty much 2 different sizes. I've got 1/4 and I've got 3/8. The 3/8 works really good for, I'll link it below in the description. I'll link everything in the description, but it's got an adhesive on the inside. So it really locks, you can see it where it kind of came out. It really locks these squids in, which I like. So you can do the glow tubing, straight shrink wrap, which you can use 1/4, which is what I got, but I think 3/16 would work a little bit better because this is some pretty thick walled stuff. So it came out a little bit thicker than I wanted. And I used chafe gear on the wire for the loop. And this is, just something I wanted to do to make sure that my leader never touches the wire. And I don't know if it's really needed, but something, I'm just sitting around messing around with these. So I'm gonna do to the best of my abilities to have these things ready to go. So next time I get to go out, we're ready to go. So, and then I decided these are 7/0 owners, and these are the main jigs that I use, and I like those the best, but it's mostly for fishing bottom for grouper and amberjack. And these are the Williamson jigs, and I've never had a lot of luck on these, but I'm going to tie up a few cable rigs for these as well. And these are going to be quite a bit longer than for the little short style jigs. So, and this is something I was pretty impressed with. I was shopping around for hooks, and these I can't remember. I'll link them in the description, but they actually look like some really good hooks. And I mean, you hold them side by side with the owners. The owners have a little bit longer shank, but I can't tell any difference. They look the exact same, just a little bit shorter shank on these. So, and they were way, way cheaper. So I'm gonna definitely give these things a try. I haven't tried them yet. And if anybody goes, somebody probably try these out and go fishing before I do. And if you do, let me know how they work for you. We're gonna go ahead and get started. All right, so the first one I'm gonna do is just a standard, just shrink wrapped. And I like to go with my hook and start the wire in that way. It's just the way I always do mono on straight hooks. That way the hook is setting like so, as opposed to setting like that if you go in the other way. So I've got it wrapped around and the wire's coming in this way. I want to come through. This is the way I'm gonna do mine. This is the best way I think, but someone may disagree. I'm gonna come through the opposite way, like so. Now I'm gonna tighten those down. Go ahead, slide a crimp on. And I'll tell you what, this wire is something else to cut. I haven't bought a good set of wire cutters yet. And I bought the Cuda Crimps. These things right here. These are made by Cuda off Amazon. Everything Cuda I've ever used has been phenomenal. But these crimps suck. And I'll show you why here in a minute, but I have not been impressed with them at all. They don't cut the wire worth anything, and I'm not very happy with the way they're designed. But I mean, they were only, I think they came with a package of stuff with them. I think they were $80 off Amazon, but it's, I don't know. I'm just getting into the crimping game now. I'm just getting into crimping. So I went through and read a bunch of reviews. So I got my crimp on there, and I'm gonna use the appropriate size. And this is another thing I've been trying to get it good and squared off. For crimping with cable, everything I've found, with most crimping, you leave 1/16 or so at the end. But with cable, I don't believe you have to. So I'm gonna crimp that all the way through. And I'm gonna go on the next size down, come 1/16 off, and just give it a little squeeze. I tested some of these out for strength earlier, and I'll show you how I did that crimp. I just did 2 crimps, leaving 1/16 on each side, and it left a hump in the middle. And when I jerked really hard, I could pull it straight through. But that was just on not wrapping it around the hook. Ow. So there's our first crimp. So now, I don't know if this is necessary, but it's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use this chafe gear, and I'm gonna cut it. That one was a little bit shorter than I want. I want it about 1 inch long. And the best thing I found to cut the wire are these 10 shears. They cut it no problem. And when it doesn't cut clean, it makes it really hard to get these crimps on. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my crimp on here. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut this tag end off here. I did a few of these in the house the other day. And oh my God, I got these things everywhere. The little shards of metal. Oh my gosh, it was bad. So let's just say, if you're gonna do this, when you're cutting it, make sure you cut it over a trash can. So got my chafe gear on, and this is a solid ring. I don't think I had the package out in the picture, but they're owner 7.5s, and Catch-All makes them as well. I've used some of those in the past, and they seem to work just fine. A little bit cheaper, but the only thing is the size chart on those are kind of difficult to figure out exactly what size you need. But you definitely want a big one, because anybody that does a lot of vertical jigging knows you hook a fish and you try to kill yourself to get that fish up. So now I've just got that pulled up. I've got the solid ring in there, and I'm gonna slide it down. It's just a touch long. I'm making this one for this jig here, and you want it, you know, about 3/4 of the way or so down the jig. So I'm gonna shorten it up just a touch here. And it's a little tricky. It's not bad. So now, put this in my crimps. And on these, on the loops, I do like to leave a 1/16. I think it just kind of makes the anti-chafe stuff work out a little bit better. And now I'm gonna go down a size and just give it a little squeeze. But that just may be these crimps, because it is 1.0 to 2.0. So I mean, that's a pretty broad area to me. And whenever I tested these out the other day, I mean, I didn't crimp. I haven't tested one out where I crimped the whole sleeve yet. But when I tested it where I did the 2 crimps and left the hump in the middle, I mean, that wasn't sufficient. So I don't think I'm damaging the cable by any means by just giving it that little squeeze there at the end on the next size down, but it's personal preference. You can do whatever you want. So I'm gonna cut that tag end off. All right, there we go. So it's not the prettiest thing. I've got the long crimps, short cable. So now what we've got to do is cut our shrink tube to length. And I want it to come past the wire on the hook a little bit and all the way up to the chafe gear on my loop. So all the crimp and the wire is covered up. So I was going to use the 1/4 inch and slide over the hook. I thought that's what I'd done previously, but that did not work. I think I just used the 3/8 because I think I tried these before I had the 1/4 inch shrink tube. So I'm going to slide this over like so, and I'm going to go ahead and line that up and get it just about right there where I want it, where it's going to cover everything up. And you can use a heat gun, a lighter. I've got a little torch here I'm going to use. Try not to burn myself too bad. Try not to melt that chafe tube there. Oh, getting a little hot. So you could use 3/16 or 1/4 inch, but what you got to do is slide the tube over before you put your split ring on and crimp it. And I did not do that. So we're going to have 3/8 on this one, which is fine. It just turns out a little bit thicker, which I think will be okay, but I think I would like next one. I will definitely use the 1/4 and slide it over a little bit. So there's that one down. We've got one done. Now we're gonna do one with a little squid. So for this one, I'm gonna use one of the owners, a little bit longer shank, 5 bait hooks. And as you can see, a little bit longer. So I think that works out a little bit better with the squid myself, but that's just my opinion. Wrap it around. Yep. I do that every time. I always try to go through the same direction that I came in. All right, so I got my crimp on there. Same concept. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, cut my tag. And now I'm gonna use a piece of this 1/4 inch tube, just a little short piece to cover the crimp and the wire. I don't know if this part's necessary, but it seems to make the squid hold on a little bit better, and it covers up the end of that wire. And there we go. There we go. So I think 3/16 may actually work a little bit better for the smaller wire. And I don't know if you can see that, but it doesn't quite cinch. To the wire, but the glue pretty much fills the void. So, all right, so these are the little squids I'm using. I don't remember. I have no idea where I even got these. I've had these for a while, and I may have got them off Amazon. I'm not sure. I may have got them at a tackle shop somewhere. It's little glow squids, all it is. And the tip is solid. So I'm gonna take and snip just a touch off the tip where it opens up. So opens up just a little to slide over that shrink tube and the crimp there. And I'm gonna get it down there. So I think right about there is gonna be perfect. And that tube kind of helps to fill that gap, holds it in place a little bit, and it's gonna catch the eye of the hook if it slides down any. I think if I move it all the way down to where it catches the hook, that'll probably be all right, but I may want to trim some of these skirts off here, but I'm gonna slide it up just a touch. Either way you want to do it, but I think the shrink tube with the adhesive is gonna lock it in place pretty good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead, get my crimp on here and some chafe tube. So I've got my chafe tube, and I'll need a split ring. I'm gonna use 3/8 to do this, so I don't need to slide it over first. I'll make this one just a touch longer than previous. That way it'll should lay right towards about 3/4 of the way down, a touch past. I think that'll work out good. So I'm gonna crimp this. If you're crimping mono, from everything I've understood, you always want to leave that 1/16 of an inch on both sides. If you don't, it'll cut your mono. But with wire, these are copper crimps, and copper is a softer metal, so therefore it's not needed from what I understand. All right, so we got that crimped together. And now I'm gonna take my 3/8 here, measure off where it'll come about a 1/4 inch or so over the head, right above the eyes, and all the way up to chafe tube. And then the good thing about the 3/8 again is it slides right over that solid ring. So there we go. Got it locked in on the head of the little squid, right in front of the chafe tube. So I'm going to very carefully go ahead and shrink this down. And I think a heat gun probably works better, but I left it at the house. All right, I think I got it a little too good, but it's okay. So I got a little warm there, and this will straighten back out. But there we go. Ooh, that's hot. All right, so this is the one I did with a heat gun, and you can tell the difference. I got that a little bit hot, but I think with a heat gun, it melts it a little bit even more evenly, and you can see the adhesive came out. But I mean, that's still, it's locked in good. It's not gonna go anywhere. I mean, it will eventually, obviously, because it's a fishing lure. So it's gonna get tore to pieces, probably 1 or 2 fish, but you know, if it gets that 1 or 2 good ones, it's worth it, worth the time to make. And these, I think I definitely like using the 1/4 inch, and I'll do one of those here in a second and show you. But the glow tube, I like it pretty good. It's a little bit tricky to get on there because it's real thin, and I got the thickest I could find inside diameter, but it seems to work. It's kind of soft, so I'm not sure how long it will hold up, but it's just an option. This is that. It's a smaller diameter inside there, but it's kind of a little squishy. All right, so now I've got both crimps on. I've got my chafe gear, and I'm gonna go ahead and slide my 1/4 inch tube down. I've got to slide it around the hook a little bit so I can get to that crimp to make these short enough for these little jigs. And this is kind of the tricky part. This 1/4 inch tube does not like to slide, but a little bit of patience and you can do it. So, all right, I've got it down there. Now I'm gonna put my split ring on. Go ahead, get it in my crimp. Should be, that's about the right length. Tighten that down. And I've got a nice little loop in here. And the one thing about these crimps that I saw stressed a ton was you got to crimp it right. You got to crimp it in the right direction. And I don't know if you can, no, you can't see. I'll show you in a second. But you don't want to crimp it in the wrong direction or the crimp will fail. And I've just got to slide this 1/4 inch tube right up there. So there we go. Take my pliers here. I'll burn myself. And 3/16 I think would work good. I think it would shrink up just a little touch more. This is a real thick wall with adhesive. It's marine grade, so this stuff ought to be pretty good. It ought to last quite a while. All right, so there's the one with 1/4, and here's the one with 3/8. And it's minimal thickness difference. Top one's 3/4, 3/8. Now this is 3:1 shrink tube, so that's the shrink ratio is 3:1. So it's a little bit of difference, but I think the 3/8 is just way easier. 1/4 inch looks a little bit better and a little bit more streamlined. Now, these are for the short jigs, and I'm gonna try to not make this video too long. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do one for a longer jig for this Williamson jig real quick. All right, so I just noticed something. This is the stock hook with the Kevlar that comes with Williamson. I just noticed how tiny this little split ring is. And these are the ones I'm using. And you can tell quite a bit of difference. I don't think that, I mean, I'm sure that's probably adequate. I like the bigger ones myself. So I'm gonna try to do this quick so nobody gets too bored with this video. But I'm gonna leave quite a long tag in. I'll show you why here in a second. So I'm gonna cut this one a little bit longer because we're obviously using a substantially longer jig with these Williams jigs. So we're gonna make this one pretty long. So slide that down right there at the hook and crimp it. All right, so got something in mind to do with these tag ends that I think is going to make this way cleaner. I'm not sure as far as functionality, but I think it'll make the jig, the assist hook itself, way cleaner. Just have to try it out and see how it works. Stock assist hooks only come down about halfway. I want it to come just another 1/2 inch down. So I'm gonna go ahead. So right there is about where I want it. All right, so I've got my chafe tube on there. And out there, and this hook, that's a 7/0. And it'll probably work for these, but I think an 8/0 would probably be better. Or probably a 9 or 10. I think they come with 9s or 10s. So, but that's what I've got with me right now. I've got some up in the tackle box, but so same deal. My chafe tube on there like so. Go ahead and crimp this one down. And again, I've still got that other crimp on there. So, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, I've got my 2 tag ends, or they're both. I'm gonna cut them off. I'm gonna butt together right mid-length of the rig here. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this other crimp to crimp these tags. And I probably will not crimp these as tight. I will crimp them, you know, just like normal. I won't go to that next size down and put that extra little crimp on this since it's right in the middle. And this is gonna be really more to keep these tag ends kind of together and make this thing look a little bit nicer. And it will add a little bit of strength, I'm sure, but there we go. So now, and the tricky thing is you got to make sure that they're even. And you can see on this back one, it's just a touch off, but not much. So now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get my 3/8 tube. That way it'll slide over the ring. I think it would just be a little too hard to do with a 1/4 unless you use a smaller ring, because it's not gonna slide over. All right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and melt it down. All right, well, we are ready to go fishing now. So I've got quite a few of these made, and I mean, that's enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. I mean, that didn't take me, I've made a couple of these at the house, just I have not had a chance to get out and use these. Hopefully I will soon. If somebody does, makes them like this and gets out and uses them, definitely please let me know how they work. And hopefully this will help somebody out, and you don't have to do them just like this. You can do them any way you want. I don't get to go out as much as I like, that's for sure. So we always charter or take head boats, but one of these days, hopefully I'll bite the bullet and get a boat and do it myself. But for now, I'm stuck at home dreaming about it and hoping for some good weather, get a charter, and go try out some new rods and jigs I've been building. So mostly what I've been reading is, the effectiveness of wire assist hooks. And, everyone says that if you're targeting wahoo or tuna, from what I've read, that don't use wire, don't use wire. And this is a Williamson stock, and it's shrink wrapped Kevlar. And that one's got, that's the 3/8. Here's a 1/4. There's not a whole lot of difference to me. And I think it's more a reactionary response. And if you're high speed vertical jigging, which is what I do, I think that it doesn't really matter. I think that those fish are coming up, they're seeing that lure come up. And I know most people, when they tie Kevlar, they don't shrink wrap the Kevlar only at the hook. And they say it gives the assist hook more action. As long as you make sure that you use a split ring on this, and if I can find that, there it is. These tie into the split ring on your lure, and then you tie your main line to your hard ring, solid ring. And that's gonna give your lure all the action it needs, I believe. So I think they'll work just fine, and I think you'll lose way less assist hooks and possibly and hopefully use a few less fish. And again, I'll have everything that I've used here. It's all come off Amazon, so I'll have it all linked in the description below. Well, I hope somebody likes this video and I hope to find something helpful with it. And I charter and head boat fish, so I know somebody will use these before I do. And if you try it out, please let me know. I would love to know how these things work out. And it's one of those things I sit around at the house and I'm thinking, I watch fishing shows and think about what I can do better and get prepared for the next time I go out. And it's nice to be able to do this kind of stuff. It's something I enjoy. And I've always, ever since I was a kid, I love just sitting around at night thinking about fishing, rigging my stuff, building rods, whatever it may be. But hope somebody likes the video, find something helpful. I'm new to the crimping deal, so if you see something you'd rather do it, or leave a comment, and I'm always up for learning. So appreciate everybody watching. Please subscribe. See you next time. So I was finishing up the video here and almost forgot to mention what I don't like about these Cuda pliers. And if I can get it to focus, you'll be able to see right off. And they don't cut. I've tightened them up and they loosen up pretty much instantly. Won't cut cable very good at all. You got to continually tighten these things up. So if anybody has, I may end up sending these back. I'm going to write a comment to the manufacturer, the seller, and ask them what the deal is. And we'll see what they say. But I wouldn't recommend these. I would definitely try a different brand. And if anybody knows a good brand, leave it in the comments, because it's the first pair I've ever bought. I've always tied knots, and I don't fish anything over 130 pound. So 130 pound mono, and I'm a little disappointed because Cuda has always been a really good manufacturer for me. They've always made really good stuff. But let me know a good set of pliers that you use if you do it a lot.